800 4PD info.
Are you tired of static? Wish you could take your favorite Virginia radio stations with you wherever you go? Then you need to discover the power of streaming. That's right. You can now easily listen to the Virginia Talk Radio Network for insightful discussions and local news.
From the VTRN News Center, I'm Bill Shafiro.
And groove to classic hits on Rewind 1039. All from your smartphone, tablet, or computer. No more fiddling with the dial. Just download your favorite radio app. Search for Virginia Talk Radio Network or Rewind 1039, and you're ready to go. Stay connected with your community.
Good morning. This is Kimberly McBroom in the WDBJ 7 newsroom with our Virginia Talk Radio Network news update.
And enjoy the music you love anytime, anywhere. Streaming the Virginia Talk Radio Network and Rewind 1039. It's that easy. Virginia Talk Radio Network, Rewind 1039. Now streaming.
You're stepping into the fast lane on the VTRN Sports app, 93.3 FM and 1320 AM Lynchburg, or by asking Alexa or Google Home, open VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, take the fast lane through the topics that matter across the Commonwealth. This is the Fast Lane with Ed Lane.
First of all, Trey, because you're filling in for TJ today in the Fast Lane, I listened to the beginning of the morning warm-up today. But because Lynchburg City Schools is on spring break and our kids are at camp and it starts at about 9, we get them there at about 8:30, 8:45. I didn't hear the end of it.
Oh, so you did not hear maybe my greatest joke in the hit. Like so you were very self-critical in ourselves. I think you would agree.
Yes.
I thought I did not do great. I did not have a great show today. I said it was February multiple times. I said the Hillcats multiple times. But I did also have one of my all-time jokes this morning. With Bryson Gordon. I called him our Diana Rossini.
Okay, so you went there. Okay. I was not listening when you got to that point.
Was this? Yeah.
It was in regards to Diana Rossini.
Yeah, I called Bryson Gordon our Diana Rossini, who loves to, I just said a bro hug. That's just two bros.
All right. First of all, in case you've been hiding under a rock today, it is all over the internet. The photos featuring Super Bowl runner-up. This is important because he's not losing his job for this. Super Bowl runner-up coach Mike Vrabel sitting next to former ESPN, that's important, more on that in a moment, reporter.
Now
with as of now, with theathletic.com, Diana Rossini. And there's one in the pool, the two of them together. There's another two of them hugging and even holding hands where their fingers are interlocked. Let me just say this much, Trey. You're about to be married. I can say this. I'm married for almost 12 years now. Since I've been dating my wife, and certainly since we've been married, there have been no other instances of me interlocking my fingers with another female.
Yeah, I was gonna say my lovely Storm Durham, my fiance.
Shout out.
This is, I only get to tell her like the sports gossip things, or if David Malukas has a new helmet because that's her favorite IndyCar driver.
Well, this is for her today.
Ironically, because Diana Rossini is tied to it, the AJ Brown saga, because that's her favorite football player. Because he wore pink shoes one time and that's her favorite color. I'm not even kidding. That is
AJ Brown is definitely tied to this.
And she loves reading, and he read a book on the sideline. Literally the two reasons. Anyways. Yeah, she did not like what she saw.
So if you were Mike Vrabel and that was not, well, you can just say it. If you were Mike Vrabel and that was Diana Rossini and your hands were interwoven together.
I wish this came out on a Monday. I would have had so much fun on Tuesdays with Lake Lewis. I would have had so much fun.
Oh, this definitely has to come back up because I'm just curious. So again, to fill you in, former ESPN, now current, maybe not to be, and I don't know if she should be for long, theathletic.com reporter Diana Rossini. If, it's important to emphasize, if the photos are true and their allegations. Heck, even if it's only that. This is a bad look.
They're alleging that it was an event of 6 people, and this is like selective moments.
Selective moments. Well, I mean, look. First of all, I mean, you got to be a bit more aware than this. Like, what are you do? You're holding hands and sitting next to each other and hugging in an NFL event where credentialed media are there. Do you not think cameras are going to be going off? Or is the Three Stooges most routinely like to remind us, are you that dumb? The other thing is, do you even care if you're Mike Vrabel? Like, from a Patriots standpoint, his job is not going to be in danger. I mean, if the NFL is going to get rid of people for having affairs, I think you'd have a good chunk of the players that probably would not have jobs either. Let's just keep it real here. And most professional leagues are not 100%, maybe not even 50% of them. But there are plenty who are talented and allowed to. Not to mention your Tyreek Hills, who've got like 10 kids with 9 women type people. That's its own deal. But again, if this is just the photos, it's still a bad look. First of all, if from the marriage side of things, if you take it seriously, which I do, different people handle it differently. Not joking. There's some people that are more into the open relationship concept, to which I would add whether it's let's try this mind-altering substance. Let's try this mind-altering substance and drive, especially, as our friends at Trostwall.com and 777 Herd remind you, have a backup plan if you're going to consume. But if that's your thing, just remember, it may start off as your best friend. It can end as your worst enemy. The decision that you make. Pat Summerall had that quote about alcohol in the fast lane. Well, before it was the fast lane, back when I was on ESPN Southside down in Martinsville, Virginia. This won't end well is the 4 words, or 4.5, or the 4 words, 4.5, that you need to remember. The other thing is this. From somebody who is a champion of women in sports and women's sports, this is a horrible look for female reporters. And Diana Russini should take it, figuratively speaking, on the chin, the criticism that's coming her way for this. Even if it's just an innocent holding hands and a hug and then sitting next to Mike Vrabel at the pool where she's in a bikini or a swimsuit and he has his top off in his swim trunks, because that's what the photos look like from the New York Post. So even if it's just that, you've got to be aware of your position. When you're a female reporter, fair or I would say not fair, there are a group of people out there, most of them are men, who are of the belief that female reporters get the access and the promotions because of what they are willing to do. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I don't believe that is true. We have many credible female reporters who I would say we're tight enough with that do it the right way. We may even be, we're slated to catch up with one of them, Talia Goodman, women's basketball reporter for On3 Sports, at 5:25 today in the Fast Lane. Candy Waller, Madam President, Bowie TV Sports, regular guest of ours here in the Fast Lane. We could rattle them off. But we have them on because of the insight they can provide and the value they can provide in that sense. If you're going down this route, not to mention the A.J. Brown of it all, as Trey noted astutely, A.J. Brown has been rumored to go to which team do you think this offseason? Here's a shocker. That team is Trey. Dun, 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 dun.
The Patriots.
Correct.
But that's more because of,
And who has been reporting most frequently about the Patriots A.J. Brown connection? Take a wild guess.
It's definitely it's something.
So the 3 takeaways out of this, if you're thinking about it, this won't end well, should be the thought that goes into your mind. Look, I'm a guy. I can sit there and point out plenty of women who are attractive. I'm also a guy who, how do I say this diplomatically? There is a perception that because I am on the radio and we do great work and we're fortunate to have great sponsors and great engagement and people know of us, that there are certain situations where women perceive you to be famous and are attracted to that. I learned that when I first started this. I also learned how to resist that and say no to it. And then not to mention, the Diana Russini look is the part that is the most disturbing and the biggest takeaway. Look, I don't even think the most telling thing is this clip came out or was resurfaced earlier today from Dianna Russini speaking on, I believe it's Get Up. Is that the show on ESPN with Mike Greenberg?
This wasn't earlier today. This
No,
was
no.
a couple years ago. but yes.
The clip resurfaced earlier
Oh,
today.
yes, it's from Get Up.
Yes, it was a comment that took place a couple of years ago. But here it is, just to listen in.
And I think we all do weird things when we're in love, and we overshare and overpost. And look, he's married. He's getting married to a beautiful actress. I'm married to someone average. I don't post a lot about him. If I was married to someone beautiful, I'd overpost too.
Now, this doesn't seem nice. We have put together photos of Diana's husband here for everyone to see so you can make some amends on national television.
We're average together. And you know what the worst part is? He sent me a text during that segment, not watching because he actually works for a living. And he said, good luck today. Be great on Get Up. So the guy's got a heart of gold. And here I am on national TV killing him. Look, we're average together, but he makes me above average because he married me. So I am so sorry. I need to really stop killing my husband on television. I'm going to be divorced by Christmas.
Well, maybe not that long. Maybe sooner than that, if this is true.
I hope it's not. I think Dianna Russini does a good job for the most part. I do think she gets a bad rap because she has more, she's from New York, so she has more Northeast ties. So like the two teams she's probably reported on the most are the Jets and the Eagles. And let's just say they don't have the nicest fan bases. So like it makes it even
and by the way, their fan bases do not like the Patriots.
So like theoretically, like, but man, this looks bad. It just looks bad. And you're right.
The worst part about the Dianna Russini thing is it makes people question the great work that so many female media members put together and churn out.
Yeah.
Including her. By the way, what do you think happens if she goes to Philly again? Does Big Dom prevent her from entering the stadium now?
There's a great meme out there.
I just saw it.
Okay.
Thank you.
I did send it. Okay, good. You saw the text I just sent. So, I mean, just chef's kiss.
It is on so many levels. Look, if you're thinking about doing it, remember, this won't end well. Even if it's your wife and you or your husband and you consent to being in more of an open relationship, somebody's probably going to get jealous somewhere along the way. So remember the 4.5 letters, this won't end well. Also, if you do something like that, eventually it's going to come out. Back to, this won't end well. Additionally, you can cover it up for a while. Like our family, I've come from a family where plenty of people have issues and challenges, and they're good at covering it up, but eventually it will sneak its way out. Water finds its level. So that's one. But the biggest one that's unfortunate about the whole Dianna Russini, Mike Vrabel thing today, nothing's happening to Vrabel. He's a successful coach with the Patriots. He got him to the Super Bowl. He's valued. His marriage may not last, but he's not losing his job with the Patriots. And then the female reporter angle. That's the part that's disturbing in the female media members, because there are a lot of female media members that do great work, and it will be overshadowed by that. We are not going to let that overshadow the great work of Talia Goodman, On3 Sports women's reporter, slated to join us in about 10 minutes today here in the Fast Lane. But other things have legitimately transpired in the world of sports, many of them that need to be addressed right now in... Whoops, if I click the right button.
It's time for Fast Five at 5-ish. 5-ish minutes on 5 relevant topics done around 5 p.m.-ish. Ish, because our counting skills are kind of ish. Let's start with number 5.
Speaking of the NFL, New York Giants star defensive tackle Dexter Lawrence has requested a trade and will not participate in the team's off-season workout program, or is not, because it began yesterday. 28 years old, third year of a 4-year, $90 million contract extension, and that's part of the note of him holding out. Let's keep it real here. The holdout from Dexter Lawrence is monetarily related. He has requested a trade and will not report. Check back with me when we get to like mid-August if he's holding in and no deal has gotten any closer. And then check back with me again when we get to Labor Day, because that's when it actually will hit the fan. I'd imagine something will get done. This is just the typical tactics you get with regards to players. They want more money. Speaking of money,
number 4.
1 money contract extension Virginia, Tony Elliott agreeing to a contract extension through 2030. No shock at all. He's coming off a really good season. The Hoos have trended up each of the last 2 years. I think we've seen enough as well that when he is properly resourced financially, Virginia can compete well, and the coaching staff has done a good enough job. Now, the schedule gets more challenging. Last year's was a piece of cake schedule for the Hoos. So there is that element to navigate, but I don't think there's a lot more to say other than the Tony Elliott contract extension that was announced today by the University of Virginia seemed like it was more of a formality, and even if it didn't come, I don't think anybody was really expecting there to be movement one way or the other, speaking of contract extensions or contracts to begin.
Number 3.
North Carolina's contract with Michael Malone, the head basketball coach for the Heels, 6 years, $50 million per year, or about $8.5 million. That's a lot of money given to a basketball coach. Just look at the amount of money given to the Carolina football and basketball coaching staffs on an annual basis. You're looking at over $18 million per year when you include Belichick and now Michael Malone. This is a ton of money, and it's on the higher end in basketball, whereas $8 million a year in football it's strong, but it's not as strong as other coaching candidates and other coaching moves would be. As far as that goes, the one part that's navigable is you're looking at a 6-year deal. I think after year 2 to 3, you'd have an idea. So it's easier to get out of that type of a contract structure. I've given my thoughts on it. I would have rather just waited for Billy Donovan, but I get the timing of it from a Carolina perspective. And maybe they should have also seen the writing on the wall sooner from guys like Tommy Lloyd at Arizona and Dusty May at Michigan, that with their success, they might just be leveraging North Carolina to get a higher pay raise. Meanwhile, some nuggets we haven't addressed, but get to now.
Number 2.
High Point, Liberty, opening up. It's not going to be midnight on the mountain. But, again, I love Liberty and the fact that they've clearly partnered up with the Field of 68 to look at these type of events that can get them more exposure and boost the caliber of their schedule. They did the Field of 68 event last year over at
Go home to Bel Air.
And now they'll be doing this matchup with High Point. This will be a neutral site matchup a couple of hours away from Liberty. But again, grab as many decent opponents as you can get. And here's the nugget to remember. 2 of the higher spending non-power programs in college basketball, the Liberty Flames and the High Point Panthers, who reportedly spent over $3 million on their roster this year. Meanwhile,
Number 1.
NCAA power brokers, I don't like the phrase leadership because I question whether they're actually leading, but NCAA power brokers are expected to finalize the expansion of the men's and women's basketball tournaments to 76 teams soon after we get through this offseason, so within the next couple of weeks. It would add 8 games to the first 4, so there would be no longer 4, but 12 games with 24 teams playing in an opening round before advancing to the main bracket. If it moves the season out a week, it doesn't really bother me. I don't think it will bother Jim Nantz since he's no longer broadcasting the Final Four if it goes head-to-head with the Masters weekend.
Spoiler alert, it will not go head-to-head with the Masters because who owns both of those head?
CBS.
Okay.
Turner is involved and had the Final Four that you missed on the video because you were listening.
The same company now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Good call, Trey. Very good reminder. That one escaped me. I would love the Final Four expansion if I thought it gave a chance by expanding it from 68 to 76 teams. If one of those 8 bids would have gone to a Liberty, a conference winner that didn't win their conference tournament. But I don't think that's going to happen. All it's going to do is give more bids to the schools who have
lots of power.
And therefore, anybody else who's a smaller school but wants a bid, even if they lose their conference tournaments, their proposal will be
rejected.
Because I do not have a lot of faith in the NCAA to actually do the right thing with this. Meanwhile, perspective on this from Talia Goodman of On 3 Sports. We'll get her perspective on that, plus a lot of changes. A Liberty women's basketball player has found a new home from a team that may be looking to spend money, losses for the Virginia Tech Lady Hokies, and all sorts of turmoil with the Lady Hoos. Trey, you were going to say something snarky.
I was going to say that player is now the only player on the team.
Yes. That's why.
The second player on the team.
I mean, look, I don't blame her if my thought is she left because there's a chance to get, more
dollar bills,
from a desperate program. I mean, it's hard to fault someone like Avery Mills for doing that. All that when we return here in the Fast Lane on the VTRN Sports app, and ask that smart speaker, open VTRN Sports.
Here we grow again at the Sheeler Motor Mile. It's here, the all-new Motor Mile Chevrolet and Buick in Radford. More brands, more selection, and the same exceptional service you expect from a trusted community partner. Whether you're shopping Chevrolet or Buick, you'll find quality, value, and a team that puts you first. From rugged trucks and SUVs to stylish cars and family-friendly vehicles, the Motor Mile has something for everyone. With straightforward pricing and top dollar for your trade, there's no better place to buy. Bring us your trade, new or older, paid off or not, and see why your car is worth more on the Motor Mile. Plus, with more inventory arriving daily, now is the time to shop the Motor Mile. Sheeler owns the finance company and makes getting approved for credit simple and easy on the Motor Mile. Flexible financing options for every budget to get you on the road fast. Experience the Motor Mile at 3 convenient locations: Christiansburg, Radford, and Pulaski. For over 50 years, we've got Southwest Virginia covered. The all-new Motor Mile Chevrolet and Buick in Radford. Certified friendly staff. No games, no gimmicks. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at MotorMileChevroletBuick.com.
If you own a diesel truck or diesel fleet, it's time to go wicked and get serviced for the spring. And when you go wicked, take 25% off your service request for a limited time. Wicked Diesel in Bedford will allow 25% off a transmission flush, coolant flush, oil change, differential service, or AC service. Your choice. Just tell Josh you want that 25% off service special. Download the coupon at wickeddieselva.com. Need diesel repair? Go wicked.
Midday hunger hitting you hard? Swing by Macadoo's for our $8.95 weekday lunch specials. Whether you're craving a classic crunch or something fresh, we've got you covered. Chicken tender basket featuring crispy golden tenders served with fries. The Macadoo's Chef Salad, a healthy, loaded favorite that will hit the spot. Hit back against your lunchtime hunger at Macadoo's with eats that won't break the bank.
Time to share it and have fun. Just to be there, the only one. Just to be there at Macadoo's.
We'll see you at the Do's.
Hi, this is Bill Roth, voice of Virginia Tech football. You're listening to The Fast Lane with Ed Lane and Trey Lyle. Join the chat at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram.
A little nugget of clarification from the Fast Five at 5-ish, and if you missed that, don't worry, go back, check it out. VTR in Sports, Facebook Live, YouTube, or Fast Lane Ed Lane. Same platforms and however you listen to podcasts, because
and guess what? We keep receipts
right there, as Coach Prime likes to remind us. The proposed expansion that is expected, keyword there, to be finalized in the coming weeks for the NCAA tournament, that would be for the women's and the men's tournaments both to get to 76 teams. Personally, I'd be okay with it if it meant more smaller schools, but call me a skeptic that would actually transpire and it won't just be more schools that are in conferences that have
lots of power,
as our girl Melissa McCarthy always reminds us. Meanwhile, Talia Goodman, she covers women's basketball and is generous enough to join us here in the Fast Lane. Talia, before we get into the nuts and bolts on the Lady Who's, the Lady Hokies, the Lady Liberty Flames, the Liberty Lady Flames here in the Fast Lane, first of all, welcome into the show. We really appreciate your time. Your thoughts, are you pro or anti tournament expansion?
Very anti, very anti-tournament expansion, very much on the women's side specifically. I mean, I think the men's too, but on the women's side, I mean, the parity isn't even there yet for the field we have now. Like, as much as I wish it would be, we're getting there, but it's not even there yet. So why would we add more teams into the mix, especially when, they're not going to be the elite mid-majors. They're just going to be, the 13th best SEC team.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, you're almost getting like the entire conference in, and that's when you start to scratch your head with regards to that. Speaking of the SEC, by the way, there are a couple different angles from a local standpoint that tie in to the SEC. Avery Mills left Liberty. She entered the transfer portal. She committed today, as you first reported, for On3.com. Avery Mills from LCA to Liberty, and then now to UT, the University of Tennessee Lady Vols. Is this a case of she almost had to do that because they needed to fill out a roster? They've got the resources, you would presume, financially, and with the amount of players they have that are departing, this was almost a financial no-brainer.
Yeah, I mean, you can't say no to Tennessee. First of all, like, it's Tennessee. It's historically one of the best women's programs in the country. I know, they're not necessarily there right now, but they're fighting to get back there. And, Tennessee is Tennessee, no matter what's going on there, who's at the helm, it's still Tennessee. Yes, they have money. She should have the opportunity to really play there. I actually saw her a couple of years back when they were at Kentucky in the tournament and thought she was so good. So I was really impressed with her. And I'm happy to see that she's ending up somewhere where I think she'll be in a system that utilizes her.
So we look at Avery Mills. There's Emmy Stout. There's Nawari as well, who's the freshman from Liberty. One of them is gone. The other two, as of right now, is probably the right way to emphasize it for the Lady Flames still with the program. Do you envision Liberty being able to retain two of the three, which I would think you would have to classify as pretty good, given the fact that Liberty's on the smaller scale in terms of school size relative to the power programs?
You know, I tend to say that I don't feel good about anybody like at all times. I think the portal has kind of shown us that anything can happen. It doesn't really matter if you think someone's good one day, they could be gone the next. So I think like right now it's a good sign certainly that they're not in there. But there's a lot of people, if they're not signed yet, then I'd be maybe a little bit worried.
Talia Goodman, WBB, that's her Twitter or X handle, if that's what you prefer to call it. She's with on3.com and is with us here in the fast lane. That's probably the best point that I've heard of anybody from the transfer portal is nobody can breathe easy until the portal actually ends up closing. Virginia Tech, they've lost a couple of key players, Mackenzie Nelson and Karis Baker, both entering the portal for the Lady Hokies. How big of a loss is this for Megan Duffy coming off of her second year?
I mean, it's kind of just the way of the world right now. Yeah, it sucks. There were actually two that I didn't really expect to go in. But they've already gotten to work on replacing them, and it's going to be tough to replace kind of the veteran leadership that they have. But it's basically we're just trading in this landscape right now. So there are 1,300 plus options for them to come get, and they'll certainly do it. I wasn't expecting Karis to go in, so that one was a little bit of a shocker to me, but I'm sure they'll be able to bounce back from it.
Talia Goodman of On3 with us here in the fast lane. Talia, you mentioned the bounce back. Would it have been as damaging? We're using basketball terms, not like beyond that. But would it have been as damaging is opposed to, and I know this was a couple of years ago, but like Georgia Amor left, that's an all-star caliber player and one of the best to play for the Lady Hokies. Liz Kitley graduated a couple of years ago, but if she had transferred out, would those losses be classified as much harder to overcome for Megan Duffy and the Virginia Tech Lady Hokies than the losses of Baker and Nelson, who are really good players, but not on that level?
Yes, no, 100%. I mean, Georgia Amor she's another level of a player. And right now, finding elite point guards is something that literally every program in the country is trying to do. They're probably, if not the most expensive, the second most behind like elite post players. So like Georgia Amor is a different scale. Like if she was in it this year, she'd be probably making more than $1 million or something. She'd be asking for more than $1 million if she was in the portal. That's not necessarily the type of caliber of player they lost. Those are really important players that they lost, but those are, players that you're able to go out and find similar caliber of.
Okay, so to get my usher on, which is what we say when we're confessing something, I do not have the same knowledge of roster costs, what they're expected to be and what they were last year for a full roster, and then what the highest end players in women's basketball go for, like I would have for the men's basketball programs. Give us context, if you would. From a power level at the top end of basketball, your UConns, your UCLAs, your South Carolinas, among others, what's the budget for their roster?
Yeah, it differs even there. There's just a lot of parity in who has what right now. The top of the top, like rosters are tough for me to kind of make claims about. If I had to take a guess, like probably the top school has somewhere around like $4 million, maybe in earned money. Players themselves this year, what they're asking for feels like double what they were asking for last year, but it feels like there's less money to go around. So that's the confusing part to me, is where's the money coming from? I don't think they're going to end up getting their asking prices, but like, I don't know, like I'd say your average Power 5 starter who's really good this year is probably getting somewhere around like 300.
So you're looking at 300-ish as far as the average starter. Thank you for that. I mean, that's information that I never knew, and that's why Talia Goodman is one of the best on 3.com, and Talia Goodman WBB is her Twitter account to keep up with her expertise. Filling out rosters, filling out a team, heck, having the right staff in place. Virginia, the Lady Hoos, I mean, it was a surprise to some on the outside. They make it to the Sweet 16, and then this past Saturday, we get the very terse 3-paragraph and really 3-sentence press release about the dismissal of Coach Mox from the Virginia Cavaliers program. You were on top of this, breaking it when it unfolded Saturday afternoon. Take us through what transpired that put Virginia in a spot where they felt like they needed to make a change coming off such a successful season.
Yeah, I don't want to speculate on like details of exactly what happened. There was some behind the scenes stuff from what I've heard. It wasn't, necessarily just like a performance decision, obviously, because it was shocking with them making the Sweet 16. This was very likely a decision that was made before that, or there was an investigation going on throughout. I don't know. I don't want to like speculate too hard into it, but it was unfortunate to see, but they got a great hire coming in who I think will keep them at a pretty elite level.
So you bring up the hire of Aaron Roussel from Richmond. Was he their choice all along? First of all, people immediately in our area speculated Dawn Staley. Am I reasonable in saying that wasn't happening?
No. Yeah, no, that was not going to happen. Some people said maybe Kenny Brooks. I don't really think that was on the table either. I think Aaron was like one of the top picks from the jump. I think there was the possibility that Virginia could have gone out and gotten a, Power 5 sitting head coach. But I don't know that that's even really what they wanted to do. I think Aaron has done such a good job being able to rebuild Richmond. He's recruited like kind of along with the Power 5. He's recruited kind of similar caliber players. And he's won. He's made it to the tournament, back-to-back years now. He's proven that they can win a game in the NCAA tournament and compete with UCLA last year, and develop elite talent. Like Maggie Dugan is, should be a WNBA, at least like get a shot in the league. So I think what he's done has given him that pedigree of earning it. He knows obviously the area very well. He's been in the mix for some other, high level jobs. So I think this is a really good fit for him.
We know about Alexis Ohanahan, the Reddit co-founder and booster who supports the Lady Who's program. Where are they right now in terms of relative to the ACC and relative to college basketball in terms of resources that they can commit to help Aaron Roussel maximize the coaching ability he has?
From what I hear, they are very well off right now. Very well off.
Awesome for Virginia fans. That's the news that they wanted to hear. If that's the case, do you see there being a path for Mo Johnson, Kamora Johnson, to come back? Do you see a path where there's retention now that they acted quickly and named a head coach? What is your read on the roster construction, including bringing back some of the key players from this past year's team?
Yeah, I had heard kind of at first that there was a chance Kamora could come back. Now that I'm kind of talking around and hearing where she might be looking, I think it's maybe a little bit less likely. I think there's some really, really good programs going after her, and that's got to be, enticing. I wouldn't like close that chapter fully. Like there's definitely still the possibility of it, but it feels more likely than not that she's going to be going elsewhere.
There it is. Talia Goodman. Talia Goodman, WBB on Twitter, on3.com. Perspective for us today here in the Fast Lane. Talia, thank you for giving us the overview of where things are with teams in our backyard, as well as the overall landscape on college athletics. I'll wrap it up on this. Is college basketball in a better place, not for what transpired with Dawn Staley and Gino Auriemma, but the fact that now we've had a couple of days, Gino Auriemma has reportedly spoken with Dawn Staley, and they're at least able to be in a spot where this is not lording over the sport?
Oh, man. I think, honestly, it was such a silly thing. It shouldn't have happened. Obviously, it was not handled well. And I contributed to talk about it afterwards, but I think the talk should have been about the basketball. The basketball, UCLA winning their first title, showing that, new teams can get to the top. I think that's what the focus should be on. I'm glad, they've been able to make up since then. But like, it's all PR, right? Like they were going to make up in some way, shape, or form. They're two of the best coaches in the sport. I'm glad they were able to do that. But I think we can move on from that crazy saga that happened at the Final Four.
There it is. Talia Goodman with us in the Fast Lane. Talia, thank you for your time. We're grateful for it. We hope you're able to catch your breath enough from the women's season to the portal opening to where you can at least catch your breath. And we appreciate your sharing your insight and perspective for us today here in the Fast Lane.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. Talia Goodman with us here in the Fast Lane, and appreciative of her time. When we return, the Redneck Riviera. For the first time of twice in a 24-hour window? Is it tomorrow?
Tomorrow, 7:20. Mike Neff.
Yes, Mike Neff of frontstretch.com. He'll be with Trey, so he'll be noticeably silent in just a moment here in the fast lane. But I'm excited. We'll have an extra amount of time for our guy Neff when we return on the VTRN Sports app, VTRN Sports, Facebook Live, and YouTube.
Here we grow again at the Sheeler Motor Mile. It's here, the all-new Motor Mile Chevrolet and Buick in Radford. More brands, more selection, and the same exceptional service you expect from a trusted community partner. Whether you're shopping Chevrolet or Buick, you'll find quality, value, and a team that puts you first. From rugged trucks and SUVs to stylish cars and family-friendly vehicles, the Motor Mile has something for everyone. With straightforward pricing and top dollar for your trade, there's no better place to buy. Bring us your trade, newer, older, paid off or not, and see why your car is worth more on the Motor Mile. Plus, with more inventory arriving daily, now is the time to shop the Motor Mile. Sheeler owns the finance company and makes getting approved for credit simple and easy on the Motor Mile. Flexible financing options for every budget to get you on the road fast. Experience the Motor Mile at 3 convenient locations: Christiansburg, Radford, and Pulaski. For over 50 years, we've got Southwest Virginia covered. The all-new Motor Mile Chevrolet and Buick in Radford. Certified friendly staff. No games, no gimmicks. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at MotorMileChevroletBuick.com.
Spring's here, finally. So visit Leesville Landscape Supplies for a slam dunk on your next home or business landscape project. Get the region's best mulch, plus decorative stone, propane, block, and hardscape materials, routine lawn care. Leesville Landscape Supplies has grass seed, fertilizer, straw, and topsoil, even hardwood mulch, dyed mulch, pine mulch, gravel, and sand. Start your spring project at Leesville Landscape Supplies at the corner of Water Lake and Leesville Road in Lynchburg, and pick there or have it delivered. Search 24/7 at LeesvilleLandscapes.com.
Do you love the 80s? Whether you were Team Madonna or Prince, this night is for you. Hi, I'm Kelly Diaz with Casa of Central Virginia, inviting you to Retro Rewind, our totally rad 80s party for a great cause. Join us April 11th from 6 to 10 at the Boonesboro Ruritan Club for an awesome 80s DJ, arcade games, dance floor, and more. Best of all, every ticket helps Casa volunteers advocate for children who have experienced abuse or neglect in our community. Grab your friends, moonwalk over to cvcasa.org, and get your tickets before they're gone.
Whether you're facing a tough season or looking for support to overcome life's obstacles, Central Virginia Counseling is here for you. Central Virginia Counseling is accepting new clients at both Lynchburg locations on Wigington Road and Timberlake Road. And telehealth is available anywhere in Virginia. Serving children, teens, and adults, our counselors are equipped with diverse skill sets to help you on your journey. For more information, visit us at centralvirginiacounseling.com.
Step into the fast lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the fast lane.
What do we owe the pleasure? Twice in a 24-hour span. Mike Neff slated to join us here on VTRN Sports Lynchburg and the Virginia Talk Radio Network, and we are ahead of schedule to link up with him, which we will do in just a moment. Curious to get his thoughts on a couple of different things. One, we come off the NASCAR weekend at the Rock. I believe he was down there actually as a fan, not covering it for frontstretch.com. That was Monday's guest, Michael Massey, but down there as a fan. Trey, I know you obviously listen to the Front Stretch Happy Hour podcast, and you are the host of the Front Stretch Bringing the Heat podcast. They've also got Through the Gears, the betting podcast, and the Monday Scott Car Scoop to recap the race weekend. But most people in the NASCAR community consume any collection of Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s podcast network content, including his own.
Are you really about to talk about Figgy Earnhardt?
No.
Oh, okay.
I was listening to his podcast at 2X so that I can still have time to listen to the morning warm-up and all of our great content on the VTR and Sports app. But when I go for my morning workouts, I actually do not like to listen to the station because I'll hear stuff that I either want to chime in on or need to correct or make a change, and I got to have a moment to reset my own very feeble brain. And so about an hour into the discussion of the one that, not today, but I guess yesterday, the one that he dropped, the one that he was recapping, the Rockingham win with William Sawalich from the Xfinity Series, they were talking about the old term was bushwhackers, where Cup regulars would drop down to NASCAR's version of AAA, the Busch Series. And they'd run that particular series. And it would make it difficult for the top teams to win races, to accrue purses and to develop their drivers. Now, I think to a certain extent, having some Cup regulars that race at different junctures, not all the time, but occasionally, and the Busch Series, now known as the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, NASCAR AAA. I think to an extent, there's value for the younger developmental drivers to test their mettle and their capabilities as a benchmark of, are you able to hang with them and are you able to put a good run in spite of them being the competition. But there's also an interesting financial side of things that Dale Jr. mentioned, that the financials got a lot better for some of the smaller teams, and JR Motorsports is not poor by any means. They are basically Hendrick's default feeder program within the AAA of NASCAR. But the financials are better for teams in the Xfinity Series when you do not have your Cup regulars, just in terms of being able to run better, perform better, and have a solid person. Honestly, that's the thing for me, is I like tuning into that series. I know I'm a nerd here, so take this for what it's worth. But I like tuning in to get an idea of who's up and coming and understand where they are and what their capabilities are going to be. So that's one of the things that I personally take away and would like to see as a nice little trade-off, if you will. There are other elements, by the way. Are we going to get Neff on the phone, or are we going to get him on the stream? Stream. Wonderful. Even better. The video that we'll get to see.
He might be in his car, but that might be it.
That's fine. I mean, he'll keep his eyes on the road, so nobody wherever he is has to call Trost off.
Like you did for happy hour, he'll drive during it, which is a little shady, but that's...
I mean, I drove and just had it, had the phone in a spot where you could see my face, but my eyes, you'll notice for the first part of the Front Stretch Happy Hour podcast last week, by the way, when I was appearing, my eyes never looked at the camera. So I looked very disengaged with Michael Massey, Brian Nolan, and Dalton Hopkins, because I'm focused on the road. Like, I can put my phone in a car spot where the camera can be on me, but the only time I'm even glancing there is really to look at the rearview mirror to see how my kids were behaving in the back of the car that I was driving, because I like being around my kids and picking them up, and one of them even made a cameo for that. But the Xfinity Series, I like that. I like the idea of a minimal amount of drivers. Somebody, again, with his great perspective, he was there for the now O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, formerly Xfinity, formerly other things, Busch Series, most me, Mike Neff of FrontStretch.com, from the right era or somewhere there. With us here in the Fast Lane, Neff, call the peace sign, because it is always touching our heart when we can connect with you. I don't know if you had a chance to listen to the Dale Earnhardt Jr. podcast, because we know the Front Stretch Podcast Network is always your top priority, and going back and listening to the morning warm-up and the Fast Lane, wherever you listen to podcasts, it's got to be high on your list as well. But on Tuesday's edition, they were talking about, and if I were a real pro, I'd actually play the soundbite here, but I didn't have time to download it today. But we're talking about the financials being so much better for teams in NASCAR's AAA series, the Xfinity, now O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, when there are not watered down races because of Cup regulars. Take us through that. Is that a good thing? What limits should there be? Should there be any limits at all from Cup regulars dropping down and double dipping and maybe even eating into the financial purse?
I mean, there's pros and cons to it. You definitely don't want guys that are in the Cup Series going down there and running the whole schedule or a large chunk of the schedule. And that's why I've always appreciated that they don't allow regulars from other series to run during the playoffs or now the chase. So the guys that are running for the title are going to have the chance to run to the title. At the same time, it's great to have them in there occasionally, because that's how these guys learn. And that's where you learn the craft and you learn what it's like to race around the guys that race on Sundays. And hopefully, if you get the opportunity to be on Sunday, you're going to already have that bit of experience, so you're not coming in completely wet behind the ears. And at the same time, it also carries on to the guys like your Matt Craftons or your Justin Allgaiers that race in a series for years and don't go up to Cup. It gives them that knowledge and that ability and experience without having to run at the Cup level that they can then pass on to other guys in the lower series as well. So there's there's pros and cons to it, and running around Cup guys makes these other guys better, but we don't want them doing it all the time. So that's why I'm glad they've put a limit in and they don't let them do it during the playoffs.
Mike Neff of frontstretch.com hanging out with us today here in the Fast Lane. Neff, I always get excited when I discuss scheduling, particularly a chance to expand NASCAR schedules to include different locations, some of them returning, some of them for the first time, and we don't have anything remotely close to what will be the 2027 schedule, nor do we need to look that far into the future. But the dialogue I'd heard today also touched on scheduling. You were part of that this weekend where there was a Truck Series race, AA for NASCAR, an O'Reilly Auto Parts race, NASCAR's version of AAA, but no Cup race at the Rock this weekend. First of all, on a bigger picture level, do you want to see more of these type of weekends in NASCAR where those series get a chance to shine and, frankly, bring the sport to other tracks and other locations that may not be equipped to host a Cup race?
Absolutely. I mean, I've long preached the fact that I don't think any tracks should have two races aside from Charlotte having the All-Star race and Daytona having the Clash. And I know that means you lose two races at Bristol and you lose two races at Darlington. But there's enough tracks in this country, and a lot of them being short tracks, and you know my proclivity for short tracks. I want to see more short tracks on the schedule, and I love to see us going back to these historic tracks. And, you know, it has spawned in North Wilkesboro getting back on the schedule. You're hearing it about Rockingham, although I'm always cautiously optimistic with Rockingham because it just doesn't draw the support that it really needs to prove they deserve a Cup race. You've got over 6 million people within a 2-hour drive of that track, and you struggle to get 30,000 people there. So that's a problem that they need to get worked out if they're going to try to do a Cup race. But yes, I think having these standalone, quote unquote, weekends with O'Reilly and trucks, or even O'Reilly standalone, truck standalone. When they ran trucks with Indy, I wasn't happy about it being on a street course, but at least it was something they did. And we've seen them do it at Iowa. So that's an opportunity to let people see a national level series that is not necessarily Cup, and to gauge what kind of interest there might be going forward. I mean, let's be honest. You put a Cup race at Hickory or at South Boston, or for goodness sakes, Thompson or something like that, or Stafford, someplace where you don't ever have those races, that place would be nuts. And hopefully the day will come when that happens. But in the meantime, yeah, I love seeing these standalone weekends because it shines the light on those lower series a little bit more. And it's also an opportunity that maybe we could get another week or two off for the Cup guys. And again, the other thing that I've always preached is let's do some weeknight races. They tried that a while back, and for whatever reason, they didn't like it. I've always thought that you could run on a Wednesday night. The example I've always used was Toledo. We could run at Indy one weekend, check all the cars that are going to run on Wednesday night, go to Toledo and run a race at Toledo, and then go on to Pocono, so that the NASCAR infrastructure can go, and it's on the way anyway, so that you're not really going out of the way. You can handle all the tech stuff, so you don't have to have all that tech equipment at the track, and you could knock out a race on a Wednesday night without really putting a big burden on the show getting from one track to another.
Neff Short Track, Twitter, Instagram, frontstretch.com, where he writes and contributes, and he's with us here in the Fast Lane. He'll be in the morning warm-up tomorrow, 7:40, VTR and Sports app. What's wrong with The Rock just having a place where it is as a unique race for the Xfinity and Truck Series? But correct me if I'm wrong, I was there probably, again, insert your outdated 6-7 joke, but 6-7 years ago, and went through there, and I love the venue. I went to a race there back when it was back about 12 years ago when it made that 2-year return, and think it's got a spot for those series, but infrastructure-wise, in proximity to the other locations, it's hard to justify it having a Cup weekend right now.
Well, and the thing that I've always said about the place, you don't have the hospitality there that you need. And there's not very many hotel rooms in the greater area of Rockingham. So you're looking at people having to stay, an hour away and then get up on race morning and drive an hour plus sitting in race traffic and then drive back home or whatever it is. But it's tough to get a lot of people to want to go because they have to make that commitment on Sunday morning to drive an hour or so just to get to the track rather than being able to stay right there close. There's some camping at Rockingham, but it needs work to really be an offer. And that's what I think has long been the problem. They always had horrible dates. They were always, right early in the season or late in the season when the weather was lousy. They never had a nice, mid-May date or an early June date where it wasn't truly hot yet down in the Carolinas. And it was always cold and weather was iffy. You had a lot of rain action. So it never got a fair shake, but at the same time, the area itself just doesn't have the infrastructure to really cater to the NASCAR fans that want to travel a little ways to go to the race.
MNeff Short Track stopping by with us here in the Fast Lane. That's his Twitter account. It's Mike Neff from frontstretch.com with us here in the Fast Lane. Neff, I know you mentioned, your ideal world of a NASCAR Cup Series schedule featuring every track except Daytona for the Clash and the All-Star race at Charlotte, all of them being one dates. Is a better compromise keeping the Cup maybe more of the mainstream where the infrastructure is in place for the hospitality, but moving the Xfinity and Truck Series to a lot of these other venues, particularly if you can keep them in a more regional area where costs are much more prohibitive for them to be traipsing all over the country?
I would agree with that. It's nice to keep them closer to home. The problem is, people in far-flung places don't get to see them as much, but I understand it. Your other option there, too, is if you work the schedule so that you have 2 or 3 races in a relatively centralized area so that they could run at Pickett Raceway Park in Indianapolis. And then I know I mentioned Toledo a good bit. And then maybe somewhere in Ohio that's down more towards West Virginia, or maybe even in northern Kentucky, where you're not having to travel that far, and you could make it a deal where these guys could stay away from home for a week and run, like I said, a Saturday, a Wednesday, and then a Saturday. So they're not having to travel back and forth from the Charlotte area, but could do 3 races in an area like that. But yeah, I understand when you're in that series, you're not getting the big paydays that you get at the Cup level. It costs a lot of money to run those teams. And let's face it, guys are losing money running Cup teams, let alone you're trying to run a truck team and have to drive to Kansas and Phoenix and Texas and places like that. So yeah, I get it. It's probably is a good idea if we're going to try to go to some more standalone type places to be more like the old NASCAR that was so southeastern United States centric.
Pivoting off of all this to NASCAR action itself with Mike Neff of frontstretch.com. Neff, NASCAR at Bristol this weekend. Quality of racing. Is it what it was 2 years ago with a really impressive tire wear and the strategies that unfolded because of that? Is it what it's been in other spots where it's been kind of a clunker entertainment-wise, or is it somewhere in between?
We're going to find out with more horsepower. I feel like the more horsepower package this year on the short tracks is going to make a difference. It's going to add a little to the tire wear. We've had tire wear for a little while now, but with this car, when it was underpowered, it just wasn't putting on a show. And hopefully with a little bit more power in them, you're going to get some guys sliding around a little bit more. You're going to be able to get some better advantages, taking a higher route to try and get a better momentum runs around the outside. And we might see people doing more of that old Joey Logano line where you kind of diamond off the corners to make the runs. It's cautiously optimistic is the way I would phrase it. I think with this new package this year, I think we're going to see a better race. I don't know if you're going to get back to the old days, but it's going to be better than it has been the last couple of years.
Neff, as far as the race goes itself, I've got to ask this. Is this the weekend Ty Gibbs finally gets the win? Because I hear so many people predicting this is going to happen.
I know you wave that monster banner all the time, my friend. Let's give him credit. He has definitely performed above his average this year. He has definitely shown more promise. We've seen him near the front a little more often. I don't know that he's going to get that win yet, but you never know. I mean, let's face it. Elliott Sadler won at Bristol in the Wood Brothers when they were not competitive hardly at all. But the stars aligned that day and he pulled it off. So you never say never in cup racing, and the fact that he's been near the front and showing speed is encouraging. That I think that win is closer than it ever has been going into this weekend.
Well, that's optimistic news. That is something that prompts me to curse. That is hope that I have not heard from Mike Neff in quite some time with this here in the fast lane. Neff, we'll wrap it up on this. Similar manufacturer, but different team. I haven't really had a chance to delve into this. No official extension has been announced yet, but there have been reports now for the last couple of weeks that it's basically almost a done deal. Tyler Reddick remaining with 2311 Racing. I mean, at this point, is Kurt from Goodburger, RIP, by the way.
Well, I should have known.
That this was an inevitability all along, right? I mean, Michael Jordan's got the money to sue NASCAR and hang in there the entire way. If he wants to keep his most talented driver, this was going to happen, right?
Yeah. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, you're looking at a guy that won the first 4 races of the season, has been a factor to win almost everything that's gone on this year. 2311 is ascending, and he is the face of the organization right now. That would be just let me, from the eyes of a Bulls fan, that would be the most Jerry Krause thing in the world if you let Tyler Reddick walk out the door at 2311. Because let's face it, Jerry Krause let Michael Jordan leave the Bulls. And there's been no dumber move in the history of professional sports than that move, including letting Joe Montana go to the Chiefs. So that would be idiotic to take the guy that is a superstar in the making in the sport. He is young. He has got the talent. He is showing he's got the talent. The equipment is now matching that talent. It would be an idiotic maneuver to let him walk away.
Well, and if you know anything about MJ, he's not too fond of Jerry Krause. So
no, he's not the only one that's not fond of Jerry Krause. Trust me.
There it is, Mike Neff with us in the fast lane. Neff, thank you for your time. We're grateful for it as always.
It's always an honor, brother. You know I'll come on anytime. You just give me a call. Okay. Everybody have a great weekend.
Indeed. Neff with us to wrap up the fast lane. Catch him again tomorrow in the morning warm-up. Thanks for listening to the Fast Lane on VTRN Sports, 93.3 FM, W227 BG Timberlake, and 1320 AM, WVG.